Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIII. So yeah, again, we still, what Tail said. Also, again, we still have, I know I keep saying this, but it bears repeating. We have no fucking plan, and it just, I think there's a Proud Clad. There you go. It doesn't look anything like the Proud Clad in Final Fantasy VII, so I have no idea why they called it that, but...
As I mentioned, vehicles and locations that have similar name to previous entries in the franchise is not a new thing. There are some cases, like also in this very game, that I don't really think are applicable. This is probably one of the most tamest. It's still probably not the greatest, but I don't really mind it as much as I should, probably.
It's one of those things where it feels like an empty Easter egg, or like when you just name it like that, like...
I suppose, but at its worst, it's technically harmless.
If I may, I think the reason...
Go ahead, Joe, don't worry, this is not important, keep going.
I think part of the main reason that people take issue with it is that, again, this is the game that is all saying, I'm gonna be the one that ends Final Fantasy VII's career by usurping it. And yet having it just do these, at best, empty, references, it feels so lame, and like they're literally just trying to fake it till they make it. Only they never do end up making it.
Basically.
Also, small correction from the previous part. Snow's limit break equivalent to Sovereign Fist was in the commando role, not in the Sentinel. I didn't notice that mid part. Sorry, go on.
Like you said, maybe it's just a trippy egg
Easter egg.
Basically.
Easter egg, yeah, but overall, I think it's like, well, again, it's the fact that this game has blatantly ripped off 7 at this point, to the point where it just feels half-hearted, if anything. And I feel like there's a certain metric to how much you want to have something be something in name only.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there really is just wondering, why'd you do this? I think, Tio, to put it in terms, it's sort of like your problem with some of the Eidolons designs here and there.
Also, the giant Bulbasaur returned.
That is true, that is true, Jova, but at the same time, I would also, if the alternative is not having them at all, the game better have a very good justification. 12 actually managed to pull it off by the virtue of, replacing the entire Summon Pantheon basing instead of pre-existing entities from the other Ivalice games, which fully justify that, in my opinion.
I would say, I think another problem we have is, like, well, for as cool as a lot of designs are in this game, there are just as many that do not gel, which is probably another reason why, we don't care for those that are name only. Like, if something in name only, if it has a cool enough design, maybe we can forgive it. Maybe, but that Proud Clad design is not good.
I want to remind you that Carbuncle did not really start as a cutesy animal that you see.
By the way, cutscene.
This is actually slightly important at the very least.
Yeah, important thing. Like,
come on, Snow, apologize to it.
Apologize to it, Snow. That usually works.
One time.
So close.
Can't we, I don't know, try to bomb it or something? We have grenades. Okay, so in Snow's case, it works to say damn. Okay.
So it turns out the door is a fal'Cie.
No, we have seen this door before, and all the doors in Eden are shaped impartially like the fal'Cie itself.
Oh look, Snow's friends! We haven't seen them since, like, part 5?
And they opened the door from that end.
Hey, we're still in this game!
Guys!
And for the record, Webs, they're still... oh, okay. Well, I'll wait then. Well, but yeah, like I said, Snow's friends are back. They're still not important. They're just here to give us a little pep talk, and then we'll be on our way, and they'll drop from the game again.
Okay, as for why he didn't come and find you, his hands were literally tied by the plot on that one, guys.
Yeah.
Even if he tried to, he probably wouldn't have been able to have made us
It's
win you.
this is the game trying to do funny banter. The problem is the script is so fucking dry. It doesn't work.
Hey, now wait just a minute here.
Oh my god, a fun and quirky moment among characters.
And even then, it doesn't work very well because the writing is not good. The writing is so insipid.
Just like old times, huh, boss?
Don't you worry. We'll take care of this.
It's just the characters, like, it's just the most generic, by the numbers type of banter dialogue you can think of. Like, there's nothing witty about
do
it.
together.
Yeah, we all did it.
We're Final Fantasy heroes.
Yes.
Get out.
Well, Teo, maybe one day we can have a Muzo made by. I mean, we already have we already have a Dragon Quest Heroes, so why not?
Snowstrings literally just showed up to open a door and remind us that they exist. Good times.
And we never see them for the rest of the game. We know they survive thanks to a novel, but that's, again, for the purpose of this very game, that's it.
Yeah. Well, and that was our cameo. Again, maybe this could have been a nice little send-off if, again, the game actually made me give a shit about those characters. Seriously, those characters haven't been in the game for like 30 hours at this point. Maybe even more. I would have to actually bust out calculate the actual time, but go on.
Not for nothing. Seeing that we now see that structure in full, they could have easily have just leaped over that door. Because we've seen them be able to jump very high in the overworld before. And okay, even if that's gameplay story segregation, we have now seen for several scenes that the Eidolons can literally levitate and jump high enough. So just summon the damn Eidolons and get over that door. Should be a non-issue at this point.
Indeed. All right, time to continue moving along. Follow the pretty looking road. Dun de dun de dun de dun de dun.
See. Just have Hope speak to it, and they'll turn to our side for some reason.
Okay. All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Mention anything, we're going to get another cutscene.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here is the Sanctum entrance. Let's get into it.
Actually, we have not been spotted because we had a deceptive soul.
Yeah. But, okay, should be smooth sailing from here, right? I love how Vanille looks absolutely terrified. Vanille, do you even know what these things are?
Maybe that's the fear of the unknown.
Especially with what they've been going through a lot.
Some sort of crystal?
I don't like this. Is Cocoon falling apart already?
Could be. Maybe Orphan's having trouble holding things together with all this fighting going on.
Which would mean...
Try a little space.
Behold, let's see, I am huge now.
Yeah, but we're gonna stop this ruckus soon enough.
Can you halt the cavalry's charge? Filled with righteousness, they will slaughter Orphan.
Oh god, another book.
The longer you talk, the more the enemy's gonna have more of a chance of winning.
And not just that, Dwebs.
That's the thing.
That's
they
exactly
want
what he
the enemy
wants,
to win.
Maybe that's the idea, Dwebs. He's counting on boring them to death with his speeches.
Either that or he's talking so long, the enemy can just sneak up behind them and kill
Wait,
them.
I'm sorry. You'll savor the demise of Cocoon? Dude, killing Orphan kills you too! Or did you...
That's the thing. That's what he wants, Jova. He's so bored, he would rather die than continue living in this purgatory. That's the thing.
Again, it's a falsy that was given, similar also to Orphan, it's a falsy that was given a high position and was came understanding...
I love how he disappears, like whoop!
Yeah, came understanding and thus believed that the system was too broken and they needed to devise a solution to end it, and that was the...
Wow, that cutscene was pointless. It literally told us nothing we didn't already know.
that particular flashing light, like he said, is also foreshadow for later. But believe it or not, these floating crystals that represent the draining of the vital force of something attached to in this case Cocoon, is the element that's gonna be staying consistent the most throughout the entire Power of Crystallis. Even if it's not attached to it, even in the final release of 15, this element is still present, believe it or not. So interesting way of for commitment for this. I guess it's a minor thing when you really get down to it, but I'm surprised considering how much of a mess everything else is.
It's like...
Sorry, go on.
Again, okay, to recap that scene. Barthandelus shows up again and he's like, by the way, let's see, I am still evil. Okay, that's the update. Goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Here's the thing. We're later gonna get a big development, which probably would have been nice for Barthandelus to... Sorry, for Daisley.
They're the same thing. You can...
They're the same being. Daisley is just the name of his human form.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay. There's gonna be a development coming up soon that would have been probably good for Daisley to actually monologue and explain over. But for some reason they chose not to, and just have him repeat his usual shtick of "Mwahaha, I'm evil, please kill us."
It's one of the... Again, okay, so let me get this straight. The villain wants you to kill him because that would destroy your hometown, your home planet even. So your plan, I guess if I'm going to call it a plan, is to go straight into it and do exactly what the villain wants. Good job, guys. Good job. We couldn't find a way to circumvent the villain's plan, so we're just going to do exactly as the villain wants. There's nothing else we can... Like, seriously. It's just like...
Well, okay, what they want right now is to stop Daisley. The cutscenes have not even, showcased much of them realizing is the fact that it's an easy trap to fall in. Essentially, what's gonna inevitably happen is that Daisley is leading them to the Cradle of Orphan when they believe they want to just stop, Barthandelus and at the very least then formulate a plan to calm everyone the fuck down.
Mm-hmm. It's so... It's mostly because it's dumb, especially when we actually get to the actual point where Orphan is right in front of them, and their reaction is, "Okay, let's kill him." And I'm like, "What? Didn't you? We literally spent hours explaining what happens if you do that."
That actually will happen. But let me see how long it is. Oh no, okay. We're gonna have something important later.
It will be like. Okay, let me...
No, I get what you mean.
No, yeah. It's... I really get the feeling Toriyama and Watanabe got to a point where they wrote themselves into a corner. And they realized, wait, we just wrote it so that the heroes can't kill the villain, because if they do, everything's fucked. So how do we even create... how do we have our typical save the world climax? Simple. We'll pull something out of our asses at the last minute.
Okay, now to be fair, it has been stated that it's absolute pandemonium going up here, so if they chose just to do nothing, they'd be standing by as their world was torn apart. A tough thing to do. The problem is that the game does not play into that anguish well enough for it to feel like a vital conflict, because they pretty much immediately go to the option of...
I actually really like this line from Lightning coming in a moment.
It's also where we'll find Orphan. The battery that keeps Eden running.
Good to know. So what's the plan?
Your usual plan. Charge in through the front door, what else?
Right.
Aren't you berating him for that?
That's the thing.
Well, there's a way of saying in my country, Drova. Well, I'm not sure it's very appropriate, but I will mention that.
Okay, to be fair, you can kind of interpret this, and I do, as with subtext. She doesn't mean that literally. What she means is, that's her way of saying. That's her way of saying, look, there's nothing else we can do. Might as well try this, because remember, up until this point, Lightning has been berating him, but now she has come to realize that Snow is not the idiot she thought she is. So her way of quote-unquote going with his usual plan is a subtle way of saying that she now, at the very least, understands the merits of his commitment to trying to do something, even if it seems
Too
hopeless.
bad it doesn't feel earned.
It doesn't feel. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It doesn't feel earned, and you can argue I'm giving the script more credit than it deserves. But I can, but on the highest benefit of the doubt, I can see what they're going for with that line. The problem is, yeah, the script doesn't really, even if it is what they intend to do, the script hasn't really done a good job in making that moment feel earned, like Veggie just said. Sorry, go on, Joe.
I don't know how Allie Hillis was directed, but the way Lightning says it sounds like she still has a bit of contempt for Snow, even though they supposedly have made up. Like, maybe it's just how her tone comes off in general in this game. But
that's because Jova
really feels like we're going back and forth on things.
That's because Jova. Okay, Ali hasn't actually flat out said this herself, but when you compare Ali Hillis' performance to her Japanese counterpart,
Maya
Sakamoto, you can see two very different types of performance. Because Lightning is way more emotive and has a much more relatable voice in the Japanese version, and a lot of fans who have played the game with the Japanese audio on still are incredibly confused why the localization team decided to have Lightning sound so monotone in the English dub.
Was it something that, the Japanese company thought, oh, this is how Americans would prefer it, and so they directed the localizers to
I can't remember, Jova. The game was partially also made to cater to the Western fan base.
So here we go. Now the fallacy pretty much go, hey, it's all free real estate.
Oh, there you go.
And they literally turn everyone into a full-on seat.
Yeah, what Sats just said. It's Barthandelus reminding us of what expects them if they don't come in. Yeah.
So this is what I was referring to when I said this would have actually been a good scene for Barthandelus to be monologuing over, saying that, hey, okay, you choose not to do anything, then we'll literally turn everyone into seed, which, again, that would have at least given the heroes another reason to want to fight. Like, let's at least focus on taking Barthandelus down, and then see where things go from there, because, well, yeah, everything's going to pot, essentially.
Indeed.
And again, this is a way to start building up the stakes here and there. Good. Well, not even really good stuff, just adequate stuff, because it happened way late into the plot. Let's not forget, even before all this, the heroes were all gung-ho about going back to Cocoon. Almost no hesitation whatsoever.
It's like I said before. That's what it feels like. It feels like the reason we have this constant thing of our heroes going straight into the lion's den, doing exactly what the villain wants. Well, actually, I'll continue after when the boss battle starts, because we're about to start yet another boss battle. Well, actually, no, we have this battle more. Okay, might as well then. I thought I was going to. Okay. So it really feels like to me that Watanabe and Toriyama were writing this script and they wrote themselves into a corner. They wanted some really tense desperation. They need to kill the villain, but if they kill him, the Cocoon goes to shit. Problem is, when it came down to actually creating an actual proper happy ending to this thing, they turned to each other and they thought, oh, now what do we do? Like, they literally wrote themselves into a corner.
I'm not even going to say how they solve it, because it needs to be seen to be believed. Oh, I wonder.
No, my pet rat was in there.
Looks like no one was
It sounded like Vanilla was about to burst out crying.
You're saying about that, but the entire motivation behind the Doom Marines spreading destruction of hell is because they killed this pet rabbit. You don't fuck with your pet, with the pet.
Exactly.
So we are once again fighting this doofus.
The Provalclad.
He's too stubborn to he's too stubborn to die.
Well, Gio, there was more to it than just Daisy, but yeah.
So here's the issue here. At this point, Yaag Rosch should start questioning the fact that his fellow officer is literally turned into seed right before his very eyes. But he's like,
don't worry, Jova.
Whatever. I don't care.
It's just a normal thing.
Oh, don't worry, Jova. That's what he will do right after we beat the crap out of him this one time.
Also, kind of a missed opportunity that we never get to fight. Kind of a missed opportunity that we never get to fight him on foot.
But Jova, again, really, Jova, you wanted him to be friendly with that butter knife that he has, that's supposed to be the Masamune.
Again, it feels like they were trying to make him this game Sephiroth, but without any of the cool factor.
And before anyone starts to be pedantic in potentially the comments, yes, I know dagger users in the family series are extremely common and they know how to make that work. I'm just referring to the context of this game where such a technique would probably be laughable, to say the least.
Not only that, you made a dagger of all things the representative for Masamune in Final Fantasy of all things.
Zidane has an equivalent of that in 9. So it's not completely far-fetched, it's just that for this game again.
Okay, so now it's time for, I guess, the ending of Rosh's character arc, if you can even call it that. Don't worry, Tail, we'll have a lot more blood in 16, so.
Big 18,
not and Stranger of Paradise is chock full of it. I wish I was playing Stranger of Paradise right now, actually. That game is so much more fun than this. That game is so nonsensical, but it's so much fun. Like, just...
Oh yeah, that game is literally that game is literally Shadow the Hedgehog.
No,
Final
I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding you guys. That game is no more as a big love letter to mid 2000s Edge. Go on, go on.
Present and future prosperity. But it seems I misjudged their benevolence.
You were also massive racist, but that's, that's kind of besides the point.
You think, you dipshit?
It's my punishment.
This is such a lame development because it was so telegraphed and with no bout of nuance.
Well, I mean, just because things are easy to see coming doesn't mean they can't.
I think it's not so much a matter of lack of nuance, Jova. I think it's more so the fact that, okay, so who cares? This guy is not a character. We don't know anything about him. Let's think about this a moment. What do we know about Yaag Rosch, aside from the fact that he's a committed general? Like nothing. We don't know what is he like? What does he like? What bores him? What does what kind of life does he live outside of this military general?
Even the data log mentions much about it.
Exactly. We know literally jack shit, and yet they want him to have this big tragic ending right here in this scene.
You are free to make the choice.
If only that mattered at this point. And also, why didn't the Lassie turn why didn't the Fal'Cie turn him into a Sieve as well?
I guess because he's been
plot armor.
Literally plot armor, the proud clad armor.
About that, Snow.
Yeah, about that.
I'll be back in 13 too. Hopefully.
No, he won't actually.
Am I in the city yet?
Let the poor boy hope.
Nobody gives a shit. Sorry,
hasn't showed up here on the Opera Mia yet.
Oh, Dej, are you a fan of Yaag Rosch?
No.
Sorry, Rosch. No,
well, it's like you told me they tried to make him the
I'll mention this after the cutscene's over.
Sure.
Trust in your humanity. Let's see. The fate of Cocoon.
So I'll just pointlessly kill myself.
I mean, to be fair, how would you rather want to die? Being blown up instantly or being eaten by monsters?
I guess.
What would have been cool is if this guy could have been like, I don't know, the final secret party member or something. But no, he just dies.
Oh, here you go.
Sorry, Snow.
Am I
won't be seeing him alive.
Am I supposed to care? Like,
yes.
It's like.
Well, I have good news. The game is ever more closer to ending.
Yeah.
Oh, great! Now we got
time.
Hold on, guys. A moment of the game is taking a moment of silence to grieve over the death of this also important character.
Okay, I mentioned.
Well, what if I have something to say about this bullshit?
I mentioned Quantum of Solace in the last part. Now the film's reminded me of its artsy ending.
Also,
anyway, you were saying, Shiroi, you had something to say on that?
I think she said it.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Rosch doesn't appear technically in 13.2, but one of the novels that talk about some stuff that happened mention that Hope reviewed some footage material that was essentially commented by him, ideally, but that's literally it. We don't really, again, it still stands what we said, we don't really know much about this backstory.
Here, we're talking about the prop class. Let me use the 7 example, okay? While Scarlet and Heidegger were not the most super developed characters of that game, they still had identifiable personalities. They had a lot of great moments, like of course the legend.
You slapped Scarlet on top of a cannon.
Yes, and Scarlet.
That was awesome.
And Scarlet had that amazing slap fight with Tifa. So by the time we fought the Prague Cloud with Heidegger and Scarlet inside it, they were characters that weren't necessarily complex, but they were fun villains that we, at the very least, enjoyed watching.
At least they did more than Rufus.
Also, they had presence throughout the entire game, one way or another.
Oh, that's what I said.
Honestly, Dads, even Rufus did more than Yaag Rosch.
Whereas Yaag Rosch doesn't have any of the quirks that Heidegger and Scarlet have. He's a very serious-minded character, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Problem is, if you're going to make a character like that, then you have to have the good character writing to back that up. Which, again, this character showed up a total of what? 3 times throughout the game, 4 maybe.
One in Palum, one stalking the heroes after they storm the Palamisia, and here.
His total screen time in this game is like what, 10 minutes tops?
Keep in mind as well, 7 also had way more villains to juggle than this game. And mind you, this game either lamely ends or throws away its villains. Remember Jill Nabat? Just tossed aside despite the fact that the game was really starting to hype her up as a villain to hate. But then, nope, the actual bad guy just kills her before you can so much as hit her.
And of course, this is a JRPG climax. Now it's time for a final dungeon that is full of religious imagery. Because of course...
And to give whatever minimal credit there is, I kind of like this design. Not this particular room, but also the one. The one after was chosen, kind of wisely, I have to say, as the Final Fantasy 13 stage representation for the CDL12, because it kind of fits with the gameplay they had in mind for that game. When it came to the CDNT, instead, they chose the Eden Expressway, with the one we have been in the previous part. And it kind of makes sense because how NT works slightly different. It was slightly more iconic than President E3 2006, but more on that later.
So yeah, for all that bluster about
and then they all died. And that was Final Fantasy 13.
So anyway, for all that bluster about the Cavalry going to kill Orphan, yeah, no, the Falsely turned them into sleep as well.
Again, easy bait as well. The idea behind it is they probably would have not allowed that if, Lightning and the others did not comply. But yeah, this is actually your final dungeon, Orphan's Cradle.
Orphan!
This is basically just a gigantic tunnel with shapes that forms constantly.
Orphan, I get you're testing us, but again, okay, I get why gameplay-wise we're getting a dungeon, but story-wise, the Falsey should be trying to make it incredibly easy to get to them. And yet, what Orphan does is essentially convert things into kind of a maze, and it's like, what happens if they get lost in there forever, dumbasses?
I have to say, the design of this level reminds me of that bit in DMC 2013, where in the lead up to the fight against that evil news anchor, you're jumping through the breaking news graphics.
Like I said, Jova.
It has some similar vibes to that.
Like I said, Jova, the developers wrote themselves into a corner. So now they just have to try their best to still have all this necessary stuff and just hope nobody notices the inconsistency in logic.
Too late.
But yeah, speaking of that, let me mention what I did. Again, part's almost over, but there's no major cutscenes after this. Let me mention what we did mention in the previous part, since that piqued a bit your interest, Jova, and since it connects to what I just said about this being representative for the stage, the Final Fantasy 13 stage in DCL12. Yes, as mentioned, originally the first DCL was supposed to be a Kingdom Hearts spin-off. centered around, sure, original characters, but also Disney characters fighting. If I recall correctly, we did get some minor concept arts leaked that showcased Maleficent, Jafar, Ursula, and of all people, Jova, which for extra teeth grinding for you, Long John Silver.
That would have been
from
awesome.
Treasure Planet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, the idea there's visual speculation behind it with Disney chickened out at the very last second, because apparently there was also another non-Square related Disney traditional fighting game planned that they also canned, probably for the same reason. This ultimately still led the rumor to be inspired to include something similar to that in 358 over 2 days in its multiplayer mode, and also Bird by Sleep on that front. But I can tell you this, story-wise, a lot of the elements are still there, because ideally speaking, I don't say this as a detractor factor, mind you, but Ultimecia and the Emperor from Final Fantasy II essentially behave like Maleficent and Jafar when you get down to it in that game, and it's perfect. It's perfect. Right. So there's still some remnants of that.
Let me put it this way, Jova. According to fans of the original Japanese writing of this game, the ones who have gone out of their way to, retranslate, or at the very least, they know Japanese and they've played the game with the Japanese audio. According to them, from what I've heard, the way Lightning is written in Dissidia 012 and NT, I haven't played NT, but probably the same thing. The way she's written in the spin-offs, Dissidia and World of Final Fantasy, is apparently much more faithful to the original Japanese characterization. And yeah, I can tell you as someone who's played those, that Lightning is way better characterized in those games. So yeah, it does seem like we were robbed of at the very least a tolerable character, at least.
The voice direction, unfortunately, at least for 012, was still a bit of a fault, because like you said, Ali Hills is still also directed a bit poorly in that game, but apparently it was just a thing of the time, because for example, when you do know Jova, remember again, regardless of the person chose, Aqua in Bird by Sleep sounded terrible for the English dub.
Yes, and she can't act if you see her in the
William Warland. And like I said, she got better with the role, but again, it was just a matter of during this period, for some reason, Square Enix voice directors for the American division, for some reason, had one specific visual in mind that was just not working. And as Liz mentioned in previous parts, these were not incompetent fools. They knew what they were doing.
Which is utterly baffling, because even if you try to throw we're trying to appeal to Western people thing to it, not really. If you take a look at the most popular Western games of the time, plenty of them were full, like even Gears of War. Let's go with that. Even Gears of War, the characters are very, the original Delta Squad, they're very peppy. It's not like they're constantly in this constant self-serious monologue. No, they're very cool and have very bright and happy personalities, and great banter between each other, especially Cole. So this idea of, Westerners like Cole, self-serious, monotone character. No, that's not real. That wasn't even a thing at the time in games, actually. So I don't even know where.
There was another thing. Maybe Lightning was not attached to that. What he said was attached to the fact that, remember, she was supposed to be the new equivalent to Cloud. And what was happening around the time, as mentioned in the past, Cloud's characterization was railroaded to be a depressed, evil git.
Oh God! Seriously, Final Fantasy fans had it incredibly rough,
especially Western ones, because we were because we were getting even worse deals because of these terrible localization decisions.
And this was unfortunately way before Square started implementing dual audio in its game. Ironically enough, they started with line returns.
It's still wild how people think we're still in that era of Square Enix.
It's the sad part, because at the time that this was going on, the localization of the first World Wins With You handled Neku, but basically Neku is basically the Cloud of that series, think of it like that. And he also has, or more like Squall, like he has the same character arc that Squall was supposed to have. And the localization in that game is absolutely top notch. I can tell you that. Even Adam, I don't know if you guys saw, but Adam from SSNB also recently finished the first game, and he was talking about how the localization was excellent and everything. So somewhere out there, someone still knew how to make localizations over there at that time. So
remember, Nier came out around also.
Yeah, and the localization of Nier was good. Yeah,
mind you, they still did changes some stuff in the process, but they did manage to make the final product actually work, even with the voice direction.
And so much so that for Nier Replicant, they used the same studio that localized the original game.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for the time being. So, what awaits us in the next part, Pedro?
Well, we have to go through this entire boring dungeon. It goes on for way longer than it needs to. But then again, at this point, this is just this game's modus operandi, so why not?
It's called Orphan's Cradle because it puts you to sleep. That's terrible. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.
See ya.